This is Chick2Chick Uncut, raw and unfiltered.
So what's the number one crime in this country? It is probably not what you think. It's not rape. It's not murder. It's actually fraud. Try to understand this, but in 2024, Americans lost almost $200 billion, $200 billion to fraud and scams. This problem, it's so bad, it's actually considered to be a national security threat. And with the onset of AI, the fear is this problem is only going to get worse. So what can we do about this? Well, we can raise awareness, we can be proactive, and we can take steps to protect ourselves. My guest today is Kathy Stokes. She is the Senior Director of Fraud Prevention Programs with AARP. Kathy, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So before we get into the meat and potatoes of this podcast, tell me about yourself, a little bit about your background and how you got into fraud prevention.
You know, it all seems to make sense looking back that that's where I'd end up, but it didn't seem that way going through it. I started out in public policy, government affairs on basically on retirement income security issues, pensions and 401ks. Went from a couple of nonprofits doing that work, became very passionate about it, did a part-time master's program at Johns Hopkins, wrote my thesis on it, on the changing nature of retirement and the threat that represented, because it was making everybody do their own thing versus the pension, right? And then I went to Ernst & Young, and I spent 9 years there, and a lot of that time we were doing educational programs for our big audit and tax clients to help their employees understand how to use the 401k plan and to understand the benefit of the pension. And I ended up going on my own. I did 10 years as KSM Communications, it was at the time. A big part of that was writing about pension policy and retirement issues. AARP was one of my clients for that entire 10-year period. And I honestly, I needed to go back into full-time employment because I needed healthcare. And so AARP had a job and I joined. And the first year, I had no idea about this organization. I'm like, what am I doing here? But then they moved some things around in the organization. I ended up being an interim lead for this Fraud Watch Network program. And I fell in love with it. It was my new passion because it felt like I had spent much of my career telling employees, you got to do the right thing. You've got to save for retirement and you got to be prepared. And now I'm out there telling them as retirees, well, guess what the biggest risk you face is? Fraud.
Horrible.
So it seems to come together that way, even though that wasn't intentional.
So how did we get to this point that fraud is the number one crime in America? And I'm still trying to wrap my head around that figure. $200 billion lost to fraud and scams. How did we get to this point?
Because for the better part of the last 25 years, we have allowed ourselves to believe that this is only a problem affecting, quote, old people. They are not tech savvy. They're too nice to hang up the phone. Definitely has to be cognitive decline. And we've allowed it to be a them issue. And we've blamed them. We said, how could you fall for that? Why did you pick up the phone? I told you not to pick up the phone. And so we did deep research into this back with the Finner Investor Education Foundation about 5 years ago. And we ended up writing a paper on blame and shame in the context of financial fraud. And what we learned is at every level of society, we have blamed the victim. And because we blamed the victim, we kind of forgot, or maybe many of us never knew, that this was actually a crime.
Yeah.
And we also learned in that research that there's hope, because we didn't really mean to hurt anybody by telling them they were duped or how could they be so stupid. We're just so used to responding that way. So we're like, there's an opportunity to change that, and we've been working on that ever since.
It is so hard, though, sometimes that you think, how did you fall for that? But you're right. We have to get away, and we can't look at shifting we've got to shift our focus here and get away from blaming the victim and focus on the criminal instead. And I do think that we have to continue to talk about this and raise awareness. And what happens when you do take that step and raise awareness? What's the outcome of that?
It's societal change. It is nothing short of societal change. And I'm starting to see it. And I think a lot of organizations that we do work with across the country are beginning to see it differently and wanting to do more to address the problem. We can see, like I do conferences year round, industry conferences with professionals, and it depends on the industry. But what is the same across all of them is the light bulb moment, as I call it. And I start talking about this and I start helping people understand that we've allowed ourselves to think it was the victim's fault. And we forgot there was even a criminal involved. But guess what? It's not just a single person in mom's basement lurking on the internet. This is the space of transnational organized crime. And they have a playbook. And that playbook is what gets them to succeed time and again, and why they are able to steal $200 billion in a single year.
I'm still shaking my head over that. And if you raise awareness and you talk about the problem, are people less likely to fall for these scams?
Unfortunately, the criminal playbook is successful because of how all of our brains function. Education matters. Understanding what's going on out there matters because you may be able to take a moment. But what we're seeing is that since the beginning of time, the criminals have known to be successful. They used to call it was to get a target under the ether, get them into a heightened emotional state because they knew better than we that when we are faced with something that is an imminent threat, also works a little bit on the excitement front too, but let's say it's an imminent threat, that our brains are designed to go right past logic and into action. And it's actually called, academically, it's called the amygdala hijack. It's where we've just bypassed logic and now we have to act and we have to solve the problem that we're faced with. And it works so well. And the other thing about that is it's not because of cognitive decline, or we wouldn't see more younger people reporting fraud losses than older people. That's another thing that most people don't understand about this. It's just when the older adult is the victim, that's where the money is.
They're preying on our emotions.
They're preying on our emotions. Yes.
All right, so let's talk about these scams and let's educate people on what they are and how they operate. There are 5 top scams and a biggie, the text scam. Tell me about what is the text scam and how does that work?
Are we talking text, T-E-X-T, or tech?
Tech. Is it tech? Yes.
There's 2.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the TECH scam, the tech scam.
Yeah. It's the tech support scam. So, and I'm sure all of you have heard of someone who've experienced this. You might have not have known at the time that it ended up being a scam. You're on your device, you're doing some work, and all of a sudden you get all these pop-ups on your screen warning you it's Microsoft or it's Norton, using one of those names. There's a major problem with your computer. You've got to call this number now. Quite often, it also emits a really loud sound. Okay,
yes.
So you are freaking out, right? And you're in that heightened emotional state and you're feeling urgency. And so you call the number. It's an 800 number you call and they answer. Microsoft Text Services, how may I help you? And you explain what's going on and they're like, oh yes, we're seeing this. We're going to have to be able to get into your device. So we're going to give you a tool where you can allow us to get onto your device to see what's happening. Back in the day, and we're saying, let's say 10 years ago, this was how it worked. And then the tech person would say, look, I see all of these viruses, and they would show you files that were completely safe, but they looked scary. And if they said, these are scary files, you're like, okay, you better take them off. So they would charge you to take them off. And then maybe they would charge you a monthly fee for services that never actually existed to protect. Now that is morphing into you're on with tech support. Tech support gets onto your computer and they say, oh my gosh, your financial accounts are being attacked right now.
Oh,
And you bank with Bank of America, right? Yes, yeah. We're going to get fraud investigations on the phone. And you're freaking out like, what do I do? And they get on the phone and they're like, yeah, there's a major problem right here. Your accounts are being hacked and it looks like the money is being used for illicit activity. So now we have to get the government involved or get the FBI involved. And now you're on the phone with the FBI and they're telling you you have to cooperate with them or else they're going to think you're the one who's doing all this terrible stuff. And the best way we can protect your assets right now is to move them. And that
so you're
movement takes
freaking
various
out, right? You're in
Yep.
this heightened state of fear. To your point, your emotions are running like crazy and you're falling for it.
Yes, you are wrapped into the story they've told you. You believe it, and now they're helping you. They're going to help you protect your assets. And it's really hard to understand how this works. But again, you have to remember this person is under the ether. They will be directed to go to their bank, take out as much money as they can in a transaction. The bank quite often says, you don't typically take this money out like this. What are you doing? And they're being coached to say, well, I'm going to take my entire family on a big vacation, or, I'm getting my roof repaired and I just want the cash. And then they're directed to something called a crypto ATM machine. Do you know what that is by any chance?
I do not know what that
Well,
is.
now, because I'm going to ask you when we're done here to look up crypto ATM on your Google map or whatever you use, and you're going to see they're all over the place. They are in the grocery store, they're in the corner store, they're in vape stores, they're in liquor stores, and they're ostensibly for you to be able to convert cash into crypto as a form of investment. What's really happening is criminals are sending victims to these machines to say, this is how you're going to protect your money. And they stand there and they put in $100 at a time. They could be there for an hour, pushing the money through. And then they're told to hit a QR code or something. And the money then goes into an electronic wallet for safekeeping. And what the victim doesn't know is that that money is now gone and it's going to take 17 hops before it leaves the country. And there's virtually no way to get that money back.
I have seen those ATMs now that you mention it at the grocery store, and I had no idea what they were for or why I would even use a crypto ATM. And that's what it's for. So when this happens and all this stuff is going on my computer and it's making this buzzing noise, what do? I don't fall for it. Should I just turn my computer off? What should I do?
Yeah, and I would also say let's not talk about someone falling for it because I don't sounds like it's their fault if they do it. But like,
Yeah.
okay, this attack has happened.
I'm under attack.
You're
Better
under
phraseology.
under attack, and the best thing to do is just hit your power button and hold it. It's like a hard shutdown, and just give it a little bit of time. Turn your laptop or your device back on, and it'll probably be cleared. And if it's not, you need to get some tech support help. And actually, there's an affiliate of AARP that does tech support, and they actually have a hotline, and it's free. I'm going to have to look that number up, and maybe we can put it in your notes or something. But either that, or if you have a relationship with the Best Buy, go and see if they can clean it for you if you think that there's a problem. But it's all fake.
It's fake. Another scam, a biggie. You mentioned banks, the bank imposter scam. What's that all about?
So I think a lot of us are used to getting a notification to confirm whether or not a transaction was made by you. I mean, we set these up as our own alerts when we are banking online. So you get the note, and it's from your bank. It's from, let's say it's Truist. I bank with Truist. And I see a text message that said, we're validating this transaction for $372.43. Did you make this transaction? Yes or no? And again, heightened emotional state. Oh my gosh, that's not me. click N for no, and the phone rings. And you pick up the phone, and it's Truist Fraud Investigations calling to tell you that your account is being actively hacked and they can help you. So what was before the tech support scam that turned into the bank impersonator scam and the government imposter scam, that process that I told you about converting money to crypto is what happens. The bank impersonator quite often is going to tell you that the money is being used illicitly. There's just horrible things that they'll say that this person seems to be involved in. But if you want to not be arrested, you're going to help us find the bad guys, and we're going to help you protect your assets. And it's diabolical. And this isn't just something that happens in an afternoon. These things can go on for weeks. For weeks.
That they're just taking a little bit at a time and they keep coming back at you? Is that what you mean when you say that it goes on for weeks?
So the first step might be you're going to take this amount of money and you're going to, and here's another way they try to get you to do it. You're going to convert these dollars into gold bars. And you're going to put them in a box, and somebody is coming to your home from the FBI, and they're going to give you a record number, and you're going to write that on the box, and they're going to hold on to that until this is all over. Oh, well, it looks like now they're in another account a day later. This is what you're going to do. You're going to go to the bank. Don't talk to the bank about it because we think they're involved. Take out the $50,000 that you still have in that account, and we're going to send you over to this machine that can protect your assets. And there you go with the crypto.
And you've lost all that money again.
Money has been stolen, and there's virtually no chance you're getting it back. And then you're so embarrassed once you realize that it was a scam that you're not going to tell anybody.
No.
We have one of the victims turned survivor turned warrior that we work with. She didn't tell anybody for 2 years. 2 years, and she had to file bankruptcy because of it. But she was so embarrassed, and now she recognizes that her story will help people. So she's telling everybody.
Yeah, and it is good to speak up. Scam number 3, the government scam. What's that all about?
There are many scams that involve the perpetrator trying to pretend to be from a government agency. And typically that works well because people tend to, they honor authority, at least, maybe people in our age group and older anyway. I don't know about the younger ones today, but you get a call from the IRS or from the Social Security Administration, or you get a call from your sheriff's office saying that you missed jury duty. You're going to step up and go, wait, what? What happened? And they're going to tell you. So let's say it's the IRS impersonation scheme. We have been trying to reach you. We have sent you letters and you've ignored us. You owe $32,000 in back taxes, and we are sending law enforcement to you right now unless you pay immediately. And again, it sounds nuts. Like, how would anyone believe that?
Yeah.
But they do, and it works. And so it could be an IRS impersonator. It could be someone from Social Security saying that your account is being suspended because of questionable activity. And all of it leads toward the same thing, and it's stealing money. The jury duty one is super common. And though the criminals do their homework, they'll call from say they're from your county. They'll spoof a number that looks like it's coming from your county.
Yeah.
They will use a name of a sheriff or a judge that works in your county to get you to believe that you've missed jury duty. And the easiest way to not get arrested, because, we put a warrant out, is to just pay the fee, pay the fine. How do you pay the fine? Well, you could go down to the CVS and pick up, 5 $100 gift cards and just give us the numbers off the back. Those are sort of, they call them like government e-cards, and that'll solve the problem. or some other method of quickly getting the money out of your hands and into theirs. And again, it's this process that they put you through where you're in this heightened emotional state. Typically, it's a contact out of the blue as well. And so that's where the urgency and the, oh my gosh, I got to do something right away comes.
Playing on your emotions. The next scam, financial grooming, or shall we call them those dreaded romance scams. Horrible. We recently did a podcast with you folks on this, and the response to that was overwhelming. I hate to bring it up again, but we got to talk about these romance scams.
We do. And this is a romance scam on steroids. It's the same general process where maybe you're on social media and someone friend requests and you say yes, and then over time you start talking, and then a couple of weeks go by and they're like, oh well, let's get on to Gmail, or let's get on to this or that, so you're off the app, and a relationship develops, and at some point there's a request for money. What's happening more now is, whether or not it's romance, it could be just building a trust relationship with somebody, but it typically involves getting an errant text message. And that text message might say, hey, Jane, are you still picking me up at the airport? And you're a nice person, and you respond, I'm not Jane, and I hope you get back from the airport. And that's all it takes. A single, seemingly errant text that turns into a conversation that builds up over weeks, months, and now you have this really close, tight relationship with somebody you're probably talking to half a dozen times a day. And at some point, your friend or your lover says, you see how well I'm living, right? I'm doing all this traveling. I get these great cars and great jewelry. It's because my uncle knows how to make a ton of money investing in crypto. And he said, it's okay if I bring you into it. And, even if the person's like, I'm not going to do that. They'll be like, okay, well, and then they'll call and they'll talk more. And then that relationship somehow gets twisted into the person going, all right, I'll try it, but I'm not going to use much money. So they get you to download download a crypto exchange app, or go to a website, and you set it up with your own credentials. You're the one submitting the funds to it, and you start to see your money grow. And you may even be able to get some of that money out. And then the money continues to grow. And so you're convinced to put more money in and more money in, and you're getting all this money, and you're thinking things like, for the first time in our family, I'm going to have enough money for my next generation to inherit my wealth, or I'm going to get my grandkids through college, or my kids aren't going to have to worry about me when I retire anymore, right? And so they get to the point where they're like, okay, this is what I need. I'm going to pull it out now. And all of a sudden they can't. And quite often it's a message saying, you have to pay taxes first. And so they'll say 35% of whatever you have to come up with to get the money out. And so people do even more dramatic things, like take out a second mortgage, or take out a loan, or borrow from family and friends. And in the end, the money was never yours to begin with. It was entirely fake. And all the money that you've invested and all the gain you thought you had disappears.
You're giving me a stomach ache. Just hearing this and thinking about, because I know this probably involves people, their life savings, everything that they've earned, everything that they've worked for, and it's all gone. And it's heartbreaking to hear this. And another big scam, celebrity scams. What is that all about?
This often happens on social media. Let's say you're a big fan of, I don't know, I'm trying to even think of a star. All right, let's say it's Rick Springfield. I don't know why I said Rick Springfield. Let's say it's Rick Springfield.
Rick Springfield.
I said that because I'm trying to come up with a playlist of 80s songs for a friend's birthday.
How about a hot guy like Pierce Brosnan? Let's
Okay.
use him. How's
Let's go to
that?
Pierce. Although some people would say Rick is kind of hot. Okay, let's say Pierce. You're a big fan of Pierce Brosnan. You follow him on social media. You send him a message on social media about how much you love him and how you can't wait to see him again in the next movie or whatever. And you get a response. And it's someone staying there with Pierce Brosnan's team, and they're so happy that you're such a big fan, and they would like to give you an opportunity to, get tickets to see him or have an opportunity to meet him somehow. And then you actually start talking to the person who you're following. You're now talking to Pierce Brosnan, or so you think. And at some point, it turns into a love relationship, or, animal cruelty is such a big issue for Pierce. And Pierce would love it if you could support his foundation to stop cruelty against animals. It could be any number of schemes, but in the end, it ends up making you believe that you're in this relationship with this person that you're so excited to be in a relationship with. And they steal everything they can.
And I keep hearing the same thing over and over again with every single one of these scams. Emotion, 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 and you just get sucked into it.
Yes.
I keep hearing that. And I can't even imagine with AI now what is going to happen. And I'm sure these scams and it's only going to get worse.
It already is. It already is. We have contacts with law enforcement and investigators who are out on the dark web, or they're on Telegram, and they're following chats and seeing what the bad guys are doing, and they're teaching each other how to use AI tools in their scams to perfect them, so that you can build a website in 5 minutes that looks absolutely perfect, and you really think you're on Walmart.com. And they're stealing your payment, or they're deep faking somebody in a video, and now you're actually having a video conversation with Pierce Brosnan. It's not just phone calls or text messages. So it's gotten to the point where I've been talking about it as the industrial revolution for fraud criminals. This has just made their game so much stronger and so much harder to detect.
We have to be so smart. We have to be vigilant. I know that AARP has started a campaign to fight fraud called Pause, Reflect, and Protect. What is this campaign all about, and what is the driving force behind Pause, Reflect, Protect?
Do you remember when you were growing up, you were in probably second or third grade, and you learned what to do if your clothes caught on fire?
Yes.
Do you remember what it was they told you to do?
It was drop, help me out here.
Stop, drop, and roll.
Stop, drop, and roll. That's what it was.
Yes. And, we all eventually remember it once we're trying to get it to our brains. We wanted to stop, drop, and roll, but for fraud instead of fire. Turns out fire is a mighty trigger, and we couldn't really find a single trigger like that would immediately get you to know what to do, to have a rope reaction to it. But we did come to understand that in addition to emotion, there are two other factors that when these three things come at you, we need to train ourselves and each other that is probably a scam, and what we can do in that moment instead of stop, drop, and roll. It's pause, reflect, protect, and I'll explain that in a second. But the three things, it's that contact from out of the blue. It puts you into a heightened state of emotion and contains urgency. Let me tell you about one other scam and how it fits this. So it's 3 o'clock in the morning, your grandma, the phone rings, you're, half asleep, and you answer the phone, and you hear on the other end, "Grandma, it's me, Mikey. I'm in so much trouble. I need your help right away. I was in a car accident, and it's a DUI, and I hit someone, and she's pregnant, and she's probably going to lose the baby, and I'm in so much trouble, and I have a lawyer here who's going to get me out of jail tonight, but I need you to talk to them, and they're going to need you to send money." And Grandma's going, "Oh my God, Mikey, is that you? Are you okay? What do you need from me, honey? What do you need? I'm going to do anything." It's the grandson, right?
Yeah.
So that's that out of the blue contact is that call at 3 o'clock in the morning. heightened emotional state, oh my God, it's up to me to protect Mikey, and urgency, you got to send money right away. When those three things come at us, we can learn to take what we're calling an active pause. It's not just telling somebody, just stop, hang up. It doesn't work. So if we can teach people how to take an intentional step back, think about the situation, bring logic into the pattern of your brain, and determine if this is something you know about or if it just doesn't quite hang. In the grandparent scam, maybe you live in Connecticut and Mikey was just over for dinner 2 nights ago, and now he's staying he's in a jail in Mexico. If you take that step back, maybe you're going, wait a minute, he would have told us if he was going to Mexico. He was just here the other night. To break the spell, to bring logic back into it. So by that pause and reflecting on what you might know, you're then protecting yourself and your assets. That's why we call it pause, reflect, protect.
So just take that time and don't let your emotions get the best of you. Think this through rather than reacting, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, and for so long we don't have like a stop, drop, and roll right now. What we have is 80 scams that each have 5 or 10 red flags, and so it's exhausting.
It is exhausting. It is.
And so what can bring that up a notch? And so we did research on this, and it's evidence-based that if we can teach this active pause when the time comes, then that can go a long way. And it's not something new. It's taught by different names, but if you're a pilot, my son's a pilot now, the 2 most important things he has to do is take off and land that plane. And they are trained, they call it something else, but to take an active pause, go through the list of everything you need to do to make sure you get off the ground and you get back on the ground safely. It's used in emergency medicine. You don't see an EMT jumping off the ambulance and just applying CPR to the first person he sees. No, they got to look across, see what the situation is, analyze it, and take action then. And it's used in military operations all the time. So if it can be taught, we can teach it too. And so we're trying to encourage other organizations that are in the education space to use it. Let's get pause, reflect, protect out there like stop, drop, and roll.
I love it. All right. So I'm a victim of one of these frauds. I'm a victim of one of these scams. I've lost all this money. I need to speak up. What do I do? Do I call the police? Because honestly, I have been a victim, and I called the police and they basically said to me, we can't do anything about it. Should I still go through that step, even though the police, they're telling me they can't help me?
Absolutely. And I know it's hard, but we need to be reporting this more often. And there's a protective element to it as well. But the first thing you should do is, if it involved a bank or financial institution, get in touch with them right away. See if there's anything they can do. Maybe the transaction was recent enough that it can be clawed back. If it was gift cards, remember I talked about the gift card thing,
Yep.
Share the numbers off the back, flip that card over and call the issuer and find out if they can freeze the card and see what's left on it to see if you can get some of that money back. Once you've done that, you need to go to the police. Whether you show up in person or you make a phone call, you say, I'm a victim of a financial crime and I need to report it. If you say, I've been scammed or someone made me believe something, quite often you're going to be met with, well, why are you calling us? You gave them your money, which is the complete wrong thing to say. And so if you get pushback, or they say, oh, this is transnational, we can't do anything here, don't listen to them. Say, okay, I want to speak with a detective then, or a superior, and get that report and give them all the details you can give them, and then get a copy of that report. It's going to help with 3 things. First of all, law enforcement is going to hear from a hell of a lot more of us, and they're going to come to understand that this is a much bigger crime in their community than murders and burglaries, and they're going to do something more about it. But it's also like, if you had identity fraud, you need the police report to unravel that. And I don't know about you, I'm hearing a lot more in policy circles that victim restitution has to be a thing we figure out. And so what if three or 4 years down the road, we have a federal restitution fund, or your state builds a restitution fund? That report's going to help you get some of your money back.
That's a good point, and that's good to know, because in most of these cases, the money's gone and you're not going to get it back. But if they do create this fund and you have paperwork to prove that you were victimized, you might have that opportunity. And I know that AARP has a bunch of resources to help victims of fraud. Give us some information. Is there a hotline number? Is there a helpline, a website? Give us all of that information, Kathy.
So it's kind of all of the above. We have a really rich website at aarp.org/fraud watch network. Lots of articles and tip sheets on how these scams look and what to do if you run into one. And we also have victim support programming. We have a helpline. It's not a hotline, so it's not 24/7, but 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 5 days a week, Eastern, you can call. And if you're calling because you're not sure about the letter you just received that you've just won the lottery and in a car, call the number and see if you can talk through it and determine whether it's legit or not. If you're a victim, or you're the family member or a loved one of a victim and you just don't know what to do, call the helpline. We have about 150 trained specialists around the country. They're all volunteers. We have 60,000 volunteers at AARP. So it's a big deal. And they're trained to talk to you and help you understand what happened and what to do going forward. And it's a judgment-free zone.
Guide you through it. Yeah.
877-908-3360. And about 5 years ago, we piloted a victim support sessions program. We created the program with then Volunteers of America, and they helped us develop a curriculum on how to talk to victims in sessions, in small group sessions, to begin to heal emotionally, to begin to integrate this terrible thing into your life so you can move on from it. And it was then based on what Volunteers of America was doing for military who were returning from the battlefield, and frontline nurses and doctors during COVID. And so we use their methodology, and we've gone on to sort of do a 2.0 with our own methodology. And we've had about 6,000 people come through the program, and you can learn about it at aarp.org/fraud support. But you join the session, and the one thing, there are two things actually that we want you to get out of it. The first thing is it's not your fault.
No.
You did nothing wrong. And the second thing is you're not alone. Those are the two things that people are crushed over. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm so stupid. And this can't have happened to anybody else. You get into these sessions and you begin to understand that you're not alone and it wasn't your fault. And we thought this would be sort of a one and done. You know, you come, you do a session, and you begin your emotional healing. These are sessions that are now like regular for a lot of people. And by doing that and creating community, they're also creating in themselves agency to say, you know what, I want to tell my story. And we have many that we're using now that they're up on the Hill, or they're in the state legislature, or we just had somebody on a big show. I'm not going to remember, a big national TV show telling her story, because the storytelling is what helps us really understand the human impact on this.
The more we hear, the more awareness. I think that is so important, that people get the message so they know what to look out for. And Kathy, as we wrap up this podcast, what's your final message?
Share what you know. Share what you know. We have to have conversations about this. If you learn something, when we talked about the tech support scam, for example, don't just keep it to yourself. You know, give your mom a call, give your dad a call, give your sister, your son.
Yeah.
Have a conversation about this. And you know, you started out by saying, look, Mom, scams are the #1 crime in this country, and I have to have your back and you have to have mine. So let's talk. And if we can do that, it's no longer us as adult children telling our parents not to pick up the phone and infantilizing them. We're a team now, and we're going to work together. And you know what? Data does show if you know about a specific scam, you are far less likely to engage with it.
Great way to end this podcast. Kathy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing all of this great information. And hopefully, even if we've helped one person, what a difference. Thank you, Kathy.
That's what it's about. Thank you for having me. I so appreciate it.
Thank you. As Kathy pointed out, this is a huge problem. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that $200 billion figure that Americans are losing to frauds and scams. We have to raise awareness. We have to talk about it, and we have to help each other out to stop this problem that's only expected to get worse. As always, go over to our YouTube channel, Chick2Chick USA, like and subscribe. That way, every time we come out with a new podcast episode, you will get an alert on your phone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great day, and we will be back soon with a new podcast episode.